Hey everyone, in this video we're going to look at the following problem. It says, what is the equation for a line that passes through the points 2, 3 and 6, -3? And we want to write the equation in slope-intercept form and standard form. So I'm going to start with slope-intercept form and then come back to standard form at the end. So if you remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m represents your slope and b is your y-intercept. Feel free to graph this one and look at it visually, but we actually don't need to in this case. So my next step is I'm going to figure out what the slope is. So I'm going to calculate my slope. And if you remember, your slope is the difference between your y values. So I'm going to subtract my two y values and divide that by the difference of my x values. I need to come back to my points and label them. So I'm going to call this first point x1 and y1. It's my first point. And then I'll call this second point x2 and y2. Now I'm going to plug those numbers into my formula. So again, I'm subtracting my y values. So I labeled -3 as my y2 minus my y1, which was 3, and I divide that by 6 minus 2. So when I simplify this fraction, -3 minus 3 is -6 over 6 minus 2, which is 4. And if you notice, that simplifies a little bit more to -3 over 2. So my slope is -3 over 2, -3/2. So I'm going to come back to my slope-intercept form, y equals, I now have my slope, so I can plug in -3 over 2, x plus my y-intercept. So now I have to figure out my y-intercept. That's the second piece of slope-intercept form. In order to figure out that y-intercept, we're going to plug in one of my points. It doesn't matter which, but you can plug in either. So I'm going to pick my first point. I'm going to plug 2 in for x and 3 in for y. So in this slope-intercept form, instead of y, I'm going to plug in 3. That's my y value from that first point. Then I have -3 over 2. Plug in my x value, which for that point is 2. And we solve for my y-intercept. So I'm going to bring down 3. -3/2 times 2 is -3 plus b. I only have one step to get my y-intercept by itself. I add 3 to both sides. 3 plus 3 is 6. And my -3 and +3 cancels out. Now my y-intercept is 6. So what we have to do now to finish this one up is I need to plug my y-intercept back into this red step. So my final answer in slope-intercept form is y equals my slope, which was -3 over 2, x plus my y-intercept, so plus 6. That was my y-intercept. So this red answer in the bottom middle is my slope-intercept form. My next step is looking at standard form. So if you remember, standard form is ax plus by equals c. And each one of these capital letters represent an integer. And remember, a has to be a positive integer. So let's rewrite my slope-intercept form in standard form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite my equation, which is y equals -3 over 2 x plus 6. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to move my x term to the left side. So I'm going to add 3 over 2x to both sides. So add 3 over 2x to both sides. When I do that, the left side of my equation is going to be 3 over 2x plus y equals 6. So the only thing I have to do now in order to get this in standard form is I have to get rid of this first fraction, 3 over 2. And the way I do that is I have to multiply the entire expression by the denominator. So I need to multiply the whole thing by 2. When I do that, 2 times 3 halves is just 3, so just 3x. 2 times y is plus 2y, and then 2 times 6 is 12. So here is my equation in standard form. Hey everyone, I hope this practice problem was beneficial. If you enjoyed it, check out the video description. There's a link to some more practice problems. I'll also link to any videos that might be useful. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.